Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to talk about Moon Knight episode 4. Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're going to talk about Moon Knight episode 4. Yes, I said episode 4. We did not get a review for episode 3, just because I fell behind and doing a whole bunch of stuff here at the house. Work was busy, and Moon Knight episode 3, I watched it last week. It came and went, and while I liked it, I did not find the time to do a video on it. So here you have it, episode 4. So I'm working on other stuff this week. Had a whole bunch of videos in the can, and I'm trying to get through this Superman City of Tomorrow trade paperback. It's not bad. It's not great either, and it's very thick. So I'm about halfway through, but we will talk about that in a future video. So, Moon Knight, episode 4. While I liked episode 3, I liked the thing with the gods, and last episode, and the whole thing of turning back the moon was a little strange. Episode 4 really started to lose me a little bit. Not quite sure I see where this is going. Now, I know I did an overview of Jeff Lemire's run on the book here with that trade, the complete collection that came out recently. I also did a review of it. It's a fantastic book, don't get me wrong, but we seem to be diving headfirst into that area of the book, of the Moon Knight mythos, in terms of the head games and things like that. Unless this is all a hallucination, the way this episode ended. So it's kind of losing me for a bit. But it lost me before we got there also. Like, I felt like this episode was way too long, much longer than it needed to be. That extended sequence with Layla, her, going through the tomb and just like missing all the traps and stuff, I was just kind of like, I don't know. It felt cheesy to me. It felt a little long, way longer than it should be. I got nothing against Layla or the actress who plays her. I don't think that she's a particularly interesting character. She feels kind of flat or bland. So to see her go through all these things wasn't like exciting to me at all. I was just kind of like, when is this gonna move on? Like, when do we get back to Mark or Steven, how does this work? When do we go back to the main characters, the guys who are called Moon Knight, for crying out loud? So I think Layla works best probably in her dynamic with Mark and Steven, at least this point in the show, because there's nothing really by herself that is grabbing to me. And yeah, that doesn't pass the Bechdel test and all this other crap, but she is a character invented to be a Bechdel test failing character, basically. Her whole relationship is related around Mark Spector and who her dad was. Like, her whole character identity is based on the origin of Moon Knight, as we find out in this episode. So to have her kind of stripped of that and not really interacting with the motivation that she had about finding Mark and figuring out what he's doing and stuff like that, just kind of strips all the excitement away from that character. And I do really like how she plays off Oscar Isaac whenever he's playing both these other characters. So for her not to be there felt a little weird, and I think that's kind of where it fell, down a little bit. They didn't really establish her by herself. They always established her in relationship to Mark, right? So probably a little bit of a failing on the show by itself, not necessarily of the actress or anything else, but probably the writing. The stuff with Harrow, I'm kind of bored of this guy, honestly. Like, I think he's interesting, but he's not really doing anything that much for me. I don't really see why he's a real threat other than the couple of special powers he has and the fact that he got to the tomb earlier, even though he did get there earlier, but it seems like he dilly-dallied and let his men die instead of finding this tomb and finding the little stone statue of the god. I'm trying to think. The stuff with Mark and Steven was fine. It's just, I really think we're missing. You take Khonshu out of the picture here in this episode. after the events of the last episode, and I think the show really does suffer. Like, it really does need that wacky kind of sense of what's going on, and the levity and the directness of Khonshu brought a lot to the character and to the show. So to remove that entirely really leaves a big gap for them to fill, and I don't think they filled it this episode. Um, the whole thing about Alexander the Great being the guy in the tomb, like, what? Where is this coming from? Just, I don't know. I guess I have to go back and rewatch these episodes to see if they had clues leading on to it. I'm not that familiar with Alexander the Great's like history or anything like that. I know he was like in Egypt or fascinated with Egypt at some point, but I'm not quite sure if that his tale ends in an Egyptian tomb or if it is just something they made up for the show. So I think that's also a thing that, like, you don't really cover your Egyptian gods or history very much in the show. Like, I know they don't. Nobody wants everything explained to them, and they did kind of talk about the Aeneid in the first episode. The family of Egyptian gods and stuff. But to have this be Alexander the Great, like, did they really set it up that well? I'm not sure. And what's his relation to Amit? Was he like the last Avatar kind of thing? And that's why he was such a great warrior, because he had these special powers. Okay, I guess we'll find out next episode, if we find out at all. Seems to me like we're going to spend all of next episode inside this weird mind thing, this mental hospital that we are in. And maybe episode 6 will bring us back to the tomb for the finale. So it's a little strange. And then the whole thing, like with the last, 10 minutes or so with Harrow being this psychiatrist, and we're not really sure what's real or what's not real. I'm pretty sure it's not real, as to the fact by the end with the talking hippopotamus. I think I'm wondering if that is the god that he was talking to the Avatar in last episode. Again, when you're talking about these Egyptian gods, like, I know who Anubis is, I know who Osiris, who Ra is, that kind of stuff, and gosh, I can't think of his wife's name. The main players, and Horus. That's kind of it, though. I don't really know the ancillary gods that they're using here, like Amit, Khonshu, if Khonshu's even a real Egyptian god, much less Hathor. I think it was the god we were speaking to last episode. Much less what they look like what animal head they have or don't have. So it's a little weird to have this like shock ending and just be like, ah! To have these two separate characters be separate characters in what I assume is Mark's head makes sense. But, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Like, you saw the golden guy calling the bingo balls. Like, that was the guy that Mark was always, or Steven was always talking to when he was dressed in all gold as, like, the living statue. That's that old man there, if you didn't recognize him. There's other things in there I thought that were pretty smart, as well as, like, setting up why everything's, like, shaped like Egypt and stuff like that. But I don't know. I kind of wish we didn't go there, honestly. I kind of wish we didn't. If we did go there, maybe we should have started there and exited and gone on a real adventure. To throw it in at the end of episode 4 just feels like a massive swerve, which, I don't know, maybe doesn't feel that earned that much. Maybe it would have been done better if it was a little bit earlier, but this far in, like, I know we've only got 2 episodes left, and knowing the order of the how many episodes these series are going to be, like, it just leaves me like, what are we doing here? You only have so much time left in the show, and it felt like you wasted a whole lot of time in this episode just going through the tomb, where we could have been moving the story forward. So I don't know. There were some moments I did like in the show. I did like Mark punching Steven after he got kissed and saying, like, I'm going to throw you off a cliff. He threw himself off a cliff. There's a couple good moments in here, but overall I think episode 4 was kind of a nosedive in terms of quality from the first 3. So I want more Moon Knight. The show's freaking called Moon Knight. Bring him back. What are we doing here? Just strange. So I don't know. I'm still more involved in this series than I was like Hawkeye, but if they don't bring back the guy in the freaking costume soon, I don't know. or figure out what they want to do with these two characters. It just seems like we're just juggling between the two of them with no real thrust of story other than we're trying to stop Harrow from resurrecting Amit. And even at this point, I don't know where it's going if all that first 4 episode stuff was fake after all. It just throws you for a weird loop and you're like, huh? That's kind of where I was left at the end of this episode. So there's my thoughts on episode 4. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.